I'm going to dive straight in and tell you the whole story, just as if you were sitting across from me, maybe nursing a cup of coffee, wondering what it really takes to hold your ground when the world feels like it's tilting sideways. Let me paint you a picture. My grandpa. This old silent bull of a man walks past our picnic table early one morning, not saying a word, not even a nod, and he's got his welding torch in hand like a preacher gripping a Bible. Next thing I know, he's down on one knee beside the first ATV, and before anyone can ask a damn thing, sparks are flying and the air smells like burning rubber and trouble. I swear you could have heard a pin drop if it wasn't for the hiss and pop of that machine getting welded straight to our fence. The look on Karen's face, mouth wide open, eyes bugging out, she looked like somebody just told her Christmas got canceled. Now that wasn't how I expected my Saturday to go, but if I'm being honest, the whole day was strange from the get-go. Rooster screamed too early. Sun came up gold and stubborn. Grandpa sat on the porch halfway through his coffee, staring out toward the east field with a squint that meant something was brewing. I glanced where he was looking, and there they were, 4 shiny ATVs lined up, a whole crowd of strangers carting coolers, folding chairs, even setting up a pop-up tent like they'd just claimed our land for their own personal holiday. Grandpa set his mug down, slow steam still curling from the rim. He looked at me and said flatly, "That ain't our family." I nodded. "Nope, not anyone's family. Those are strangers, Grandpa." He got up slow, deliberate like a mountain deciding to shift, and pulled on his boots. Didn't even look back, just started walking for the fence. I trailed after him, more curious than worried. I thought, hey, maybe it's all a mistake. People get lost, take a wrong turn, right? But the woman at the center of all this, her energy was a whole different story. Blonde bob sunglasses bigger than my fist blouse, pink and pricey, and she walked like the ground ought to thank her for showing up. I didn't know her name was Karen yet, but you know the type. She barked orders, told some guy to stick a flag in the ground, another to move the ATVs for the aesthetic. Her crew spread out, turning our land into the backdrop for their social lives. Our field, our sweat, our fence, and she strutted through like she'd paid for the privilege. Grandpa just leaned against the fence, arms folded cool as the other side of the pillow. "Morning," he called, voice steady as bedrock. Karen turned bottle of fancy water in her hand. "Oh, hi there. Is this your land?" He nodded. "Been in the family 3 generations. She smiled, condescending, like she was doing us a favor. "Perfect. We just needed a spot for the afternoon. The park's closed for maintenance, and I remembered this field from last week. Hope you don't mind, we'll be out before sundown." Grandpa didn't flinch. "You passed 3 no trespassing signs." She laughed, waved it off. "Oh, they're probably old. Isn't this community space? My cousin's on the HOA board. He says it's shared recreational zoning." Grandpa shook his head. "No, this is private agricultural land. Not for picnics, not for parties. Sure as hell not for ATVs." She stepped back, a hair smile twitching. "Well, I don't see any livestock." "They'll be here tomorrow," Grandpa replied. "You'll be gone today." Karen huffed, rolled her eyes. "Come on, we're not hurting anything. Don't be dramatic." Grandpa pointed back at the porch at his glass of sweet tea. "You've got until I finish that." She faked a laugh, but it was getting tense. We walked back up to the porch, but Grandpa didn't touch his tea. He just watched, eyes locked on the field, quiet and calculating. I'd seen that look before, when coyotes skulked near the chicken coop or when a shady contractor tried to short him on fencing wire. That wasn't a look you wanted turned your way. Karen and her bunch kept carrying on, music, loud lawn games, kids tearing through the hay. One of the men spun his ATV right next to our hay bales. That's when Grandpa stood up, dusted off his jeans, and headed for the barn. I figured maybe he'd call the sheriff, maybe grab the hose and shoo them off. Nope. He came back with his welding torch gloves, a little spool of wire. Calm as could be, walked out to the ATVs, knelt by the first one like he was checking the air pressure. The guy standing there barely looked up before Grandpa fired up the torch, braced that machine to our fence post, and started welding. "What the hell?" The guy sputtered, but Grandpa didn't answer. He just finished up, stood slowly, smoke swirling around him. Karen ran over, face red as a beet. "You can't do that. That's vandalism." Grandpa stared her down. "You trespassed. That's a felony. I'm making sure you don't do it again before the sheriff gets here." She looked ready to explode. "You'll regret this." Grandpa lifted his phone. "Already recorded." You want to add resisting arrest to your day. Everyone froze. Suddenly, nobody wanted to touch an ATV. The silence was thicker than bad gravy. One of the men grumbled about calling the cops. Grandpa, calm as always, walked to the next ATV and fired up the torch again. It wasn't just the smell of scorched rubber, it was the look on Karen's face, the realization settling in that this wasn't just an old man to push around. Karen's friend Janice stepped in, sweet as pie. We didn't know. It was Karen's idea, we thought it was okay. Grandpa kept welding. Ignorance isn't innocence. You crossed a locked gate. Karen snapped. It wasn't locked. That's because the dog chased the mailman this morning. Doesn't mean you didn't pass 2 signs to get in. By the time he finished with the second ATV, the whole party was dead quiet. Kids huddled by the cooler. One guy tried to move his vehicle, no luck, welded tight. Karen pulled out her phone and started calling, using words like crazy, violent children in danger. The only danger was coming from her own choices. Soon enough, a white county truck pulled in, dust trailing. Out stepped Deputy Willis, sunglasses on hand, resting easy by his belt. He took one look. ATVs welded to the fence. Karen puffed up with outrage, Grandpa wiping down his torch, and just let out a low chuckle. What in God's quiet earth happened here? Karen launched into her speech. He trapped us. There are children here. We were just having a picnic. He went crazy with a blowtorch. Willis turned to Grandpa. You weld anything you shouldn't. Just a few trespassing toys, Grandpa said. Figured I'd keep them till it was sorted legal. Willis nodded, turned to Karen. You got any paperwork says you belong here? Karen stammered, started in on the HOA again. Willis shut her down fast. This is private land. Always has been. You passed multiple warning signs parked without permission. That's trespassing. Karen protested. He damaged our property. Did he damage it before or after you ignored the signs and set up camp? Silence. Willis started writing up citations. If you're not the owner of those ATVs, don't stand too close. Her friends started grumbling. One in a muscle shirt turned to Karen. I'm not getting fined because of you. You said it was handled. You said we were allowed here. Karen's confidence was bleeding out. Grandpa finally sipped his tea, just a hint of a smile on his lips. Willis handed out citations for trespassing, explained that they might be on the hook for damaging preserved agricultural land. Karen's jaw hit the floor. We didn't destroy anything. Intent doesn't override impact, Willis said, scribbling away. You can argue in court, but my advice, apologize and leave. Karen grabbed her bag, stormed over to her. Stuck a TV shot at, a look like it had betrayed her. One by one, her friends drifted back to their cars. Grandpa stood on the porch, peaceful as sunrise. But that wasn't the end. Not for Karen. 2 days later, she showed up again, heels sinking into the dirt blazer, sharp as a blade. I'm here to resolve this misunderstanding, she announced, all business. Grandpa didn't even look up from the tractor. She rattled off about jurisdiction and the HOA's zoning confusion. Grandpa asked if her cousin had reviewed the deed. Karen dodged, claimed they were waiting for county records. Grandpa just grinned. Already filed a complaint. State agents coming out to check your tire tracks. Karen's face lost all its color. Excuse me. 3 forms, 2 phone calls, and 1 inspection on the way. She looked rattled. Do you want money? A written apology? What she demanded. Grandpa's answer was steady. I want you to stop thinking you can treat this place like an empty lot. I want the board to strike my land from their shared use map. I want a public statement. She refused. Grandpa just shrugged. See you in court then. She stomped away and managed to step right into a pile of manure. That was just karma right on schedule. Next day, a state agent showed up, clipboard in hand, and got real thorough photos, questions, more paperwork. She left with a frown aimed straight at Karen. Week after, the local paper ran a tiny headline about the HOA facing a state review. Karen's name wasn't mentioned, but everyone knew. The town buzzed. Online, a photo of the welded ATVs made the rounds, and the comments were savage. Insurance claims came pouring in, each one denied reason vehicles illegally parked on private property. It was like the universe itself decided to slap Karen with 1,000 tiny reminders that actions have consequences. Grandpa sat out on the porch, sipping tea, watching the sun go down. Think she learned her lesson? I asked. He shook his head. People like that don't learn. They just get quiet when the world won't bend to them. And sure enough, Karen tried one last healing picnic in the public park, camera crew and everything. She smiled for the news but cracked when pressed about the ATVs, calling Grandpa a lunatic. The footage hit the airwaves and made her look worse than before. Her cousin resigned from the HOA. Her name started popping up in legal news blurbs, and the house she tried to sell sat empty, price dropping with every new zoning question that came up. One afternoon, a nervous legal rep dropped off a cease and desist letter. Grandpa took it, handed her a copy of our deed, a list of trespass codes, and a signed county statement, all legal, all ironclad. Karen gave up. Her house went on the market, couldn't sell, her name in the mud. Even the new owners put up a sign, private property, no committees. Town loved that. Folks joked about welded where they weren't welcome. People even asked to take pictures by the fence. For all the noise and mess, it was never about being clever or showing off. It was about boundaries, about respect. That's what Grandpa told me at the harvest dinner that fall as neighbors gathered and laughter rolled across the fields. People forget these days, he said. Forget that not everything is theirs for the taking just because it looks empty. And he was right. That land held more than grass and dirt. It held years' work, stories, sweat. Karen and her friends saw a blank canvas. Grandpa saw history worth defending. So let me ask you, where do you draw your line? Is it a fence? A deed? A simple word? Or is it something deeper? Patience, quiet resolve. Maybe a torch if it comes to that. I figure sooner or later everyone runs up against someone who thinks the rules don't apply to them. What matters is whether you stand your ground or let them redraw the lines for you. So what would you have done? Where do you stand when push comes to shove? Drop your thoughts below. Tell me, would you have welded the fence or let it go? Ever had to fight for what's yours, even when it wasn't easy or pretty? I want to hear your story. Because out here, a fence isn't just wood and wire. Sometimes it's welded in place with memory, with grit, and with the kind of stubborn that just won't let go.